And then the body's being taken away.
May I ask a question?
You sure may.
Was, as a child, was the hearing of things or the visual more impressed on your mind in terms of what you saw and what you heard? Can you define that at all? Because I think you've captured everything there, you know, from my perspective.
Yeah. I think that I'm particularly visual. Like for me, visual memory is particularly strong. But I also remember smells.
And smells, I was going to say smells.
Which I can't put into the paintings at all, but some of the smells were just, you wouldn't want.
No,
really, you wouldn't want. But sounds too, I can't really honestly say that there's one that is more so than another.
Okay.
But for some things I can remember seeing. I remember the first dead person I saw, and I must have just been a toddler. But it's very strong memory because it was a shock, right? That wasn't expecting to see. So yeah, I think it's the context that you experience it into.
After I read it.
Yeah, very much in context.
I don't mind my asking, but I know with children, some of these things can be very strong.
Yeah.
So as we're walking around, there are also these sculptures.
Yes.
And I don't want to just focus on the painting, but so there's a sculpture over here of the portrait. There's a group of dancers here that have the stretching. Yeah.
Or dancing.
With the cracks. The fragmented figure over there is very powerful. So yeah. You want to just say a little bit about the sculptures in the room?
He's a prototype, actually. And my plan is to make a whole series of him, but about almost life size. And the reason I did that size is because of what we can do in a kiln. You can only go a certain size in a kiln. So I wanted to find a way that I could build a highly stylized figure that I can then assemble after it's been fired. And so I did that and then assembled it after. So I figured out the mechanics of doing it about this size. But then I reached the point where I couldn't sculpt anymore, so all I have is the prototype. But I wanted to put him out to see how people responded to him, to see if, now that I'm getting my feeling back, I might just go there. I might just do that. If I get enough of a good response, then it might be worth putting energy into that. And these are just, I love that feeling, like number one, they're dancing, but they're also stretching. It's like that wonderful feeling of freedom and letting all the joints sort of stretch. And I wanted to create that because it's sort of a very, it's like an opposite ends of the, from what you feel in that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to have sculptures in the room because they show, the paintings have a kind of history. Like an almost like documented external kind of history, and then the sculptures show a kind of inner life that is separate from that. And so it's interesting to have them play off each other. Okay, I don't want to wrap this up without saying anything about the end. So let's go over here and then hear our last.
Well done. That's my arm.
So in a way, when we were mapping out where to install things, we have a lot of this kind of European experience. And then this painting here is about traveling to Canada, so crossing the ocean. And then these two paintings are reflecting on your memories of your own personal travels later in your life. So we go from this kind of dense European experience to this expansive global reach. First of all, Canada, but then this kind of explosion of energy in this piece.
Well, it's sort of what made me, right? come to Canada. That's moi on the boat, a little immigrant girl, and this is the that's the Schloss, as they call it in Germany, the castle of the town. It's always the main building in small communities, right? And this is a letter from the mayor introducing us to whoever might be interested and talking about what a wonderful family we are and how sorry they are that they're losing us. And this is the land. If I could only find one, this is the stamp that you get when you land in Montreal, and it's my mother's. I couldn't find mine or my dad's. And of course, we were sent to London, Ontario, and these were sort of the images we had about Canada. Because when they did the sales pitch to get immigrants over here, they used to show us all these wonderful nature films and lots of Indians. And I remember when we first arrived, it wasn't too long after we arrived. I'm sorry, I digress. I have to tell this story. And my dad was just he wanted to see Indians, right? And somebody said, oh, well, you know, and they sent us off to one of the reservations, and we got out, and this is this dilapidated town, right? And he was expecting to see the Rigo native. And I was just, he was heartbroken. My father was just heartbroken. But we did meet some really nice people. Like, they invited us in, and we had tea, and the lady explained that she wasn't Indian, but she was married to one. And yes, this is what life of the Indians had been reduced to in Canada, right? So I think that was my first inkling of becoming politically active. Yeah. We have to do something about this. So subsequently, I've done a lot of work on the coast of Labrador, working with native communities. So, anyways, but I won't go there because that'll take too long. And I haven't done any pages of that.
And do you want to say a little bit about it?
Well, I mentioned earlier that I worked at the Canadian Pavilion in Osaka, Japan. I was there, lived there for 3 years. And when I was finished, I decided to take 3 years off and do a around the world trip. So I had done the first leg of it going to Japan. I'd gone via Hawaii and all of that and got to Japan, lived there for 3 years. And then I came back went to China, Burma. I was able to get a 3-day pass into Burma because they had just had the political coup, the military coup, and they didn't want foreigners in, but I could get a short pass. Got close to, but not quite, to see the Dalai Lama, or where he lived, and then went to Burma. I've gotten a little out of sequence for composite art always gets in the way of history, or history gets in the way of art. Anyway, so
but art wins.
Burma, Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, India, Algiers, and Iran. And they were just some of the countries. I've stopped in a lot of other places, but those were the ones that I found had the most impact on me while I was traveling. I really found those places compelling, and sort of what I learned from the people, or what I found in how they lived was, I can't describe it, but I learned a lot about being human and caring for one another, and I'm somewhere in about here. I had the realization that every human being on earth wants exactly the same thing. They want a good life for their family. That's it. That's all anybody wants, right? They want to be able to take care of their families. And that there really is no difference between anybody or anything. It's all they want. Somewhere in there, it just became crystal clear. I've sort of all through those wonderful experiences, like when I was in Iran, I had the most amazing experience. I was in Isfahan, standing on this wall overlooking, and the landscape is quite stunning. And Isfahan is a beautiful, beautiful city. It's just amazing. It's where the Shah used to take his holidays. And this woman came up to me, and she was, all in the robes, and her face wasn't veiled though, and she was carrying a little suitcase that was made out of cardboard. And she came to me, she spoke quite good English. And she wanted me to come back with her to her people, and they were Bedouin, and teach them English. And I thought to myself, I don't know, there was something about her eyes. I trusted her. I thought, why the hell not? So I went back to the hotel and I said, can I leave my stuff here for a while? I just took what I could get in a backpack, and I went with her for 6 months. But I had to wear the veil, and I learned to. You did get to ride the camel as a woman. But you got to walk with one, right? Walk with camels. There's a book. But it was an incredible experience. I learned to eat with, just these fingers. You just use this hand to eat and this hand to do ablutions and stuff. And all of that. It was wonderful. And they were so welcoming, and they just were fascinated by me, as I was fascinated by them.
Wow, it's extraordinary.
They're very,
What immersion. And the trust both ways, right?
Yeah, it was.
I wonder how easy that would be to do now.
Well, you couldn't do it now.
Oh, I don't think so. Yeah, exactly.
Minefields, too many of them, yeah.
Wow.